So we take off in parts 28. It talks about the birth of Christ. We could say that's another reference to Virgil. The large middle of the poem gives Tennyson space to philosophize about the very nature of death. And I think the next part of interest really comes on part 43. If sleep and death be truly one, and every spirit's folded bloom, through all its intervital gloom, and some long trance should slumber on, unconscious of the sliding hour, bare of the body might it last, and silent traces of the past be all the colour of the flower. Then there were nothing lost to man, so that its still garden of the souls, and many a figured leaf enrolls the total world since life began. And love will last as pure and whole as when he loved me here in time, and at the spiritual prime reawaken the dawning soul. There's a lot going on here. It's the return of a leaf motif, transcendence of love through time, happily done by sort of Nolan in Interstellar, if you remember. It's sort of ham-acted that love is the only thing that transcends through time. Here Tennyson's kind of taking a similar sentiment but doing it way better. The poet's path through grief is much more earthly than that of Dante's clear progression through the mountain of Purgatorio. So Dante's going upwards through Purgatorio, but actually Tennyson kind of stays rooted in the earth, even as he's getting the idea of a reconciliation. Tennyson's Purgatory is of grief. It's dirty and it's muddy. It's kind of like, think of Dante's climbing a mountain. Tennyson's stuck in the mud. He has to get out of it. Let's look at line part 50 AA7. Peace, come away, the song of woe is after all an earthly song. Peace, come away, we do him wrong to sing so wildly, let us go. And here's Tennyson's track. We ranging down this lower track, the path we come by, thorn and flower, is shadowed by the growing hour, lest life should fail in looking back. So again, the imagery. So be it. There's no shade cast in that deep dawn behind the tomb, but clear from marge to marge shall bloom the eternal landscape of the past. Echoes of Orpheus's glance back to Eurydice, which we had earlier, come here again in 51. Be near us when we climb or fall, ye watch like God the rolling hours with larger other eyes than ours, to make allowance for us all. God can look at you climbing out of hell, and only God, not sort of Orpheus looking back. Of course, he got all the powers from the gods except for that. He could not, because if he looked back, that proved that he doubted the gods, what the gods were allowing him to do. So similarly here, Tennyson needs to get through this with faith in God. So much of the sentiments of that last stanza has lasted into our own age. We think of souls of those we love, and we should consider them this sort of seed of post-Christian mourning in Tennyson. But I think it's a better way that Tennyson is touching upon a method of mourning that transcends the pagan Christian dualism, or even the pagan Christian atheist trichotomy. In the middle passages, Tennyson is occupied with dreams and imaginings, which encompass a wide range of human thought. They go from the sense of religiosity, the sense of human fulfillment, and so on. Let me just look at part 64 here as well. Who makes by force his merit known, and lives to clutch the golden keys that mould a mighty state's decrees and shape the whisper of the throne, which in turn affects the dreams that the poet himself at a more personal level. For pastime dreaming of the sky, his inner day can never die. I know that in thy place of rest, by that broad water of the west, there comes a glory on the walls. That glory, though, is attained undoubtedly by Hallam's undergoing some genuine sense of sacred burial, right? It's not yet settled, and it's most likely because Tennyson himself is not yet settled. This is his purgatory, after all. It's a place not known for conjuring up restless souls. There are echoes here of Shakespeare's Antonio from The Merchant of Venice, when he says, "But what is this?" Part 68. "But what is this? I turn about, I find a trouble in thine eye, which makes me sad, I know not why. Nor can my dream resolve the doubt." If you recall, Antonio's Merchant of Venice always starts with this melancholy that no one else can understand. Why? Strong Arthurian elements, Locksley Hall. We keep getting into dream sequences. They continue. I dreamed there would be spring no more, right? Like Arthur. That nature's ancient power was lost. I wandered from the noisy town. I found a wood with thorny boughs. The place of his bough on Tennyson's head, which in his eyes make him fool to others. It's full of Christian imagery. But Tennyson, unlike Christ, feels no foresight. So he kind of a grander idea of its possession, of the crown. It's the act of a simple fool. And so instead we are stuck in the weeds of purgatory. Remember, Tennyson's purgatory is mud, grit, rather than climbing the mountain. We pass. The path that each man trod is dim, or will be dim. With weeds. What fame is left for human deeds? In endless age it rests with God. And then we can see later on in parts 75, I care not in these fading days to raise a cry that lasts not long. The world credits what is done is cold to all that might have been. Undoubtedly a reference to Hallam's untapped potential there, that a poet, both as a poet and as an intellectual, but he expands that aimless achievement further. With 50 Mays thy songs are vain, and what are they when these remain? The ruined shells of hollow towers. What hope is there for modern rhyme to him who turns a musing eye on songs and deeds and lives that lie foreshortened in the tract of time? These mortal lullabies of pain may bind a book, may lie in a box, may serve to curl a maiden's locks, or when 1,000 moons shall wane. Tennyson proceeds there, explicitly Arthurian, and he links Hallam with the Arthur of the English myth. If any vague desire should rise, that holy death ere Arthur died had moved me kindly from his side and dropped the dust on tearless eyes. Eventually emerges out of the dream state to reassert the famous lines. And that occurs in part 85. This truth came born with beer and Paul. I felt it, and when I sought it most, 'tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. After this, we see more concrete examples of Tennyson coming to terms with the death. We see him mention Vienna, which is where Arthur Hallam died, and we see that mentioned by name. Here it is. Here it's in this long part of 85. That in Vienna's fatal walls, God's finger touched him and he slept. And for any form of visitation is more conversational now, less haunting than before, because the reconciliation's okay. He's not as disturbed by any presence of Arthur's ghost, so to speak, visiting him. You can see that here. So hold I commerce with the dead. So methinks the dead would say. So shall grief with symbols pay, pining life be fancy fed. This is Tennyson's ascent out of the darkness towards the Paradiso, rather greater comfort with the circumstances that are occurring to him. And so we move out of that long part 85 into 86. Sweet after showers, ambrosial air. This is him ascending out. The rollers from the gorgeous gloom of even over brake and bloom and meadows slowly breathing bare. The conversation he has with the visitations are still continuing. Whereat we glance from theme to theme, discuss the books, to love or hate, or touch the changes of the state, or threaded some Socratic dream. So this is him now having the conversation with the ghost, right? He's over the haunting element of it. It's about here in part 95 that our imagery of dirt, soil, and drudgery begins to shift. So let's go to 95. And it's in the line, in those fallen leaves. In those fallen leaves which kept their green, the noble letters of the dead. So you see some greenery. These are the noble letters of the dead, which are giving him the greenery, which is going to get him out of the trudge, which was his purgatoria. Aeonian music measuring out, steps of time, shocks of chance, blows of death. At length my trance was cancelled, stricken through without a doubt. So the doubt here is important to Tennyson. It implies a genuine grounded acceptance for Tennyson. Without his doubt, his elevation to his present state might merely be a spontaneous and momentary one. So the doubt underlaying the position, in a paradoxical sense, it's more secure because he's aware of the danger that can be seen in doubt.